Hi, I'm Naomi Murphy, and this is the Locked Up Living podcast, where we talk with a wide range of people about harsh aspects of institutional life.
We also explore some of the ways to overcome them and to grow and develop. I'm David Jones. So join us every Wednesday morning, 6 o'clock UK time, for a fresh podcast. So, Patrick Reid is a currency expert with over 15 years experience in trading, foreign exchange and proprietary desks. He has accepted a role as visiting lecturer at the University of Cambridge and is co-founder of the Adamis Principle, which mentors traders of all levels. During his career, he has mentored clients from Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan and Credit Suisse. His passion is nurturing and finding talent within young people, and that's led him to partner with the Youth Group and Jack Parsons, the UK's Chief Youth Officer. Jack recently interviewed Rishi Sunak, the then UK's Chancellor of the Exchequer. Adamis' Principle's outreach to less fortunate young people is a top priority for him. Good to meet you, Patrick.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited. How are you? How's your day?
Nice and warm, thank you.
Yes, I know. And I've got my T-shirt, which is, I'm feeling the heat. It's but you know, like a typical Brit, we're always talking about the weather. It's always too hot or too cold, isn't it?
Yeah, we're never happy, but really good to see you again, Patrick. Thanks very much for coming on, and congratulations on your role at Cambridge University as well, with that lectureship. But Patrick, the reason I wanted to get you on the podcast is because I meet loads of people in their 40s and 50s who are doing jobs they don't enjoy. They're literally just counting down the time till retirement, but they think it's too late to change career. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm living proof that it's not, and I think we're in a, and really COVID did it. We're in a different age now, and for me, we teach late career changes. That's what we do, because I'm one. My big pivot year was 38, but we help people older, people younger, and really being curious, not being stuck in the same job that you don't like, wanting different, wanting to do something for yourself, especially if you've done well and you've provided, you know, you've got to this point where it's a bit of a reset, really. And you know, all the bad things COVID gave us, it gave us a lot of good things. And one of those things was this kind of opportunity to rethink everything, you know. People were getting furloughed. They were coming to an age where 40s, 50s, were going, well, do I accept the furlough money and then, you know, retrain, or do I get full redundancy? And even people in existing jobs that were not suitable for them, they were rethinking. They were coming to us and going, look, I just want more out of life. And you know, they've had some kind of success, but actually they just had that opportunity to kind of reflect and sit with themselves, mainly because of restrictions on going out and having, you know, living your life. But these people have just gone, like, okay, let's change this up. Let's do something different. Let's put our arms around this. And that was it for me. And it really kicked it all into touch.
Thank you. And you previously worked at the BBC, didn't you? Why wasn't this job fulfilling your need, and how did you know that you needed to change careers?
Well, the big thing for me was I got comfortable, to be honest. I'd done various roles at the BBC over 15 years, and I was like, what else is there? You know, being in a huge corporation, loving it, loving the people, loving the work, but not really deeply feeling satisfied. I just felt I needed something more, and I wasn't afraid of taking risks previously. You know, I lived in LA. I'd lived in you know, Milan for 6 months whilst not speaking a word of Italian. You know, I went to university in Milan. I changed my various, you know, I started diving where I was afraid of going underwater, and you know, I dived all around the world now. You know, so I do these kind of almost foolhardy things. You know, and some succeed, some don't. So I you know, I had a bit of experience of that. I just sort of thought there was a bit of a situation where two things happened at the BBC. One, I met someone who about to retire, and he just said, don't stay in something you're not completely a million% loving. Um, and he just, you know, he said go for gold. And then the other thing is, I met another guy who was a trader who just took me into the trading, his trading company in Tower Trading, which is on Old Broad Street in the city. And I felt this kind of buzz. I heard the cacophony and the energy, and I thought, you know, I always liked the film Wall Street, and I was like, oh, well, if only this is actually, you know, what it's really like. So I sort of asked him, and you know, the rest is history. I did a 1-year apprenticeship at the age of 38 and a half. So and that was it. So yeah, that I just didn't. It wasn't that I was unhappy with the surrounding of how I was treated and how I was valued. It was just an internal thing. I just wanted more, and I knew that this would be the final change of my career, and that was it.
I was going to ask you about how you cope with the uncertainty of doing something new, but I suppose what I'm hearing in all those adventures around the world are maybe in some way that you're drawn to excitement and things with a bit of risk and uncertainty in them.
Yeah, yeah, I am within reason, but I like. I'm just curious about. There's a book, you know, this concept of being a polymath, and I quite like that. And I just thought, well, look, why, you know, we're on whatever religion you are, whatever you believe in, we're on God's earth, or we're on this planet, this vulnerable, and something out there is higher and, you know, moving things, and that might be the sun, it might be something else. But I knew that little on me, why not have a go at stuff? And I accepted the failure before I started. So if the outcome was failure, I'd still be okay with that. And that kind of process set me up in good stead, because the worst for me is not taking the risk. That's the riskiest thing, because essentially you're bleeding out, you're wasting away, and then it's coulda, shoulda, woulda. Harry hindsight. All this stuff goes on. FOMO, and that's fear of missing out. And I didn't want that. And you know, what's the worst? Like I used to be a DJ. I think I told you I used to be a DJ, and I couldn't write music. And I used to produce, and I couldn't produce. So I did it, and I got in the charts. I got to number 74. It lasted 1 week. I mean, why not? Everyone had. If you look on YouTube, whatever, everyone's a star. You know, why not? I mean, back then it was different, but just have a go at life. Just get your arms around it and do it. It's so yeah, I've got no problem. I think I don't have a problem with failure, because I have failed in my life at things. So it's just the doing, the enjoying, and the journey.
But I think that makes you quite unusual, that, you know, you can say really authentically and comfortably, I'm okay with failure, because I think so many people are really frightened of that, and actually the fear of failure stops people from doing things. I just wonder why, you know, why are you so comfortable with it, and what advice can you give to other people to get more comfortable?
Yeah, well, um, there's that, and I'm probably butchering the paraphrase, but it's the only thing to be scared of is fear itself, something like this. Um, and you know, the other thing which I really love is the Mark Twain quote. I'm sort of full of quotes right now. I don't know why, but it's I something to the tune of, I've had so many difficulties in my life, and some of them actually happened, and I love that. I just really, and that's what I take. You know, I take little things like that I pick up and poach and see and hear from friends, and I just think fear is not really, it's a direct correlation to risk. So if you can mitigate your risk, then fear gets removed. And I use that with my trading, actually. So, coming back to your question, Naomi, is that, if you accept the outcome and trust the process, it doesn't matter, because you've actually you've learned something, and you enjoy the process. When I'm, on my deathbed and I've got hopefully some grandkids and all that stuff, I'm not gonna say, oh, I wish I did that. If I died tomorrow, I'd be fulfilled, because I'm living life to the full every day, and that includes having loads of like howlers. The things I've done, it's like it hasn't been plain sailing, but boy, what a blast. It's just like, oh, I love it.
Thank you. And what are you doing now, Patrick?
Yeah, so I'm co-founder of a business, FX consultancy, and we mentor traders at all levels. We help late career changers. I trade myself. Obviously, I'm a visitor lecturer at Cambridge. It's amazing. I travel. I've got clients all over the world, and I'm just into markets. I look at markets. I look at how governments react. I was very close to the Liz Truss debt market crisis a couple of years ago, and I'm an expert. I'm on BBC News, and I'm pretty close with the US elections coming up. I'm pretty close with monetary policy globally for each central bank. So I'm very active in from a trader's perspective on what's good for the economy, and I that's really my passion is economics. But I would say I'm an expert in economics, but of the spit and sawdust variety. So it's very much with a trader's hat on. But yeah, that takes up most of my days. But I travel. I have a great life today, and it's just because I'm never surprised. As in, I'm never surprised at what markets can throw at me. Because there's always, it's always amazing, is what I'm trying to say. That there's always something different. So I'm always trying to get my head around, what's Trump going to happen? Well, if he gets in, what's he going to do? So we're looking at stuff like that, and obviously the UK election coming up. But yeah, I just love it. I just, and I love talking to. I love talking to people much smarter than me, and learning. My day is constantly learning.
And why were you attracted to trading in itself? In the narrative of your life, what sense do you make of why you've ended up as a trader?
Yeah, I like many people, wanted to make lots of money, and I fell in love with Wall Street, the original film, and I was like, I wonder if it's really like that. I'm just curious to know things I don't know, so that was a bit of quite a good alloy mix. And then I had an opportunity, really, and I knew it was going to be brutal and hard, but you know what? If it was easy, everyone would be doing it really well. So yeah, I just did it. I knew the results and the outcome. If you're good, and I've been fortunate that markets have been kind to me. I knew the upside would be so satisfying, so nourishing, not just with money, but with my freedom and my time, because I wasn't married to a 40-50 hour week. I wanted to do things I really want to do in my life. So those are the reasons.
Patrick, one of the myths about trading is that the best traders come from East End markets. How do people usually get into trading?
Yeah, there's loads of different ways. I only know one way that I have experience with that's relevant for me, in that there are certain, in futures markets, which is where I'm from, there are certain traders that are very quick with numbers, very good with sentiment, with how things turn, very good on reacting, buying and selling products based on live events like news, wars, geopolitics, central bank rhetoric.
Can I just interrupt you? When you say good with sentiment, do you mean kind of like reading what the cultural, what the climate is? You know, what responding to news events? Is that the sort of thing that you've
Yeah. So like sentiment really in market terms is what the consensus is, in the sense that everyone feels like this, everyone feels like that. So you know, if you sort of turn it around, just say politics, like there's a huge sentiment that Labour will get in. Basically, that's what, you know. When that doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen, then that's where traders from, say, the market stall can react and make a lot of money. Another common sentiment was a few years ago, the price of oil was getting close to zero per barrel, and nobody really thought it could go negative, because that doesn't make sense, right? But it went minus $40 a barrel, and traders really capitalised on that, and some of the futures traders really made, you know, a couple hundred million. So it was those guys that actually took that sentiment, sort of flipped it and reacted on that, that did really well. And I guess it's just understanding sentiment and looking for the opportunity when that starts to turn.
So it's reminded me of Robert Harris's book, what's it called, The Fear Index, I think, which describes to some extent what you're talking about there. But what's the difference between trading and gambling, Patrick?
Well, I've never really gambled successfully, and I would never gamble. The gambling is really about probability, and it's without research, and you don't really own any of your risk. So if you gamble roulette, it's the worst odds. So you're relying on odds. If you play poker, now I'm not a gambler, so it's not my expertise, but some of my friends who are actually traders and gamblers, quite good gamblers, they tell me. So poker and, you know, blackjack, they're better odds, but the house always wins. And with trading, you own a lot of that risk, because you choose when and when not to trade. Obviously, it's the same with the casino, but you do the more research you do before, the better your chance of winning. And the process is so enjoyable, rather than betting black or red, or evens or odds, or whatever it is, high or low. The process takes so long, getting into that final pulling of the trigger, buying or selling an asset. And you really, that's the difference. It really is a skill to learn, rather than just leaning into the odds of spinning a wheel.
And perhaps we're stereotyping a bit on the basis of a few rogue individuals like Nick Leeson and Bernie Madoff, but does trading attract scammers?
Well, they weren't scammers, they were crooks. So first of all, there is a huge industry of scammers, sucking on, peddling a dream that doesn't exist, attracting, you know, punters who want to believe the dream. You know, they want to believe the hype. Nothing's changed since, you know, Mr. Ponzi back in Italy centuries ago. Nothing's changed. It's the same thing. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. You know, all of this stuff. These are sayings that will remain with us. And you know, do diligence, do your homework is the key thing. But you know, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't choose to do that because it's actually hard work. So you know, Messi doesn't put on a football boot and scores every time. because he's got hand-stitched boots. You know, he puts in the work and he's fit and he's skillful. You know, that's the same with any skill, any training skill. And coming to the Madoffs and the you know, Nick Leesons and all that stuff, they exploited loopholes and you know, and broke the law basically. Interestingly, I've just seen that Madoff Netflix drama, and it was fantastic. And also, it just goes to show you. I mean, one of the scenes in that Madoff Netflix drama was he used to have this. He went to the local golf club, and he used to have this thing where anyone that wanted an introduction or whatever, he'd say, "I'm not interested," you know, and that was obviously like the opposite reaction. Anyone that doubted his performance, he'd show them a chart with a line going from 0 to 100, and it was a perfect 45-degree angle. That was the same chart he used in all the board meetings for decades. It never moved, and that in itself just is not real. Nobody can do that. Having that consistent kind of, you know, you get that. So, you know, it's a classic, you know, somebody of that stature turning into a crook and then manipulating, you know, and selling the dream that didn't exist. You know, with Nick Leeson, he lives in Ireland now. He's kind of turned things around. He's an after dinner speaker, I'm sure you know, but again, you know, he's from Futures. I'm from Futures. Back then, there were a lot less checks on the back office to the front office, and you know, when you are a big trader, people turn their blind eye. You know, the compliance, especially back then, it was like, well, hold on, this guy's making hundreds of millions. I don't really care what he's doing because he's making the bank hundreds of millions, and the chairman will give him a free pass to do whatever he wants. So that's not new. It will forever be going on, and that's, you know, it will continue to happen. Hopefully a lot less, and it has happened a lot less because of regulation. But you know, before 2008, I mean, look at the Lehman crisis. That was another a lot of wrongdoing. You know, and a lot of that hasn't been proven. So it is what it is. But yeah, you're right. There are a lot of people out there. I mean, even like my friend, a good friend of mine, for some reason, it didn't ask my advice on something, and I was like, okay, so he's signed up with a broker that's guaranteed 50% returns every month, and I just shook my head, and obviously that's just a scam, and he's lost several £1,000s. I said, well, why don't you come and see me? Why don't you talk to me? I don't know. It just, you know, just couldn't answer. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but it just goes on.
You touched on something else there, though, Patrick. When I think especially when you spoke about the Bernie Madoff drama on Netflix, which I watched and I thought was absolutely fascinating. But what is fascinating is also the stupidity and complicity of major banks in that process as well. So, you know, you're describing this chart that gets pulled out at every meeting, but actually you'd think there are people there who'd be sharp enough to know that that couldn't possibly be the case. You know, it's quite astounding really to people outside the industry.
Well, is it? I mean, in the cold light of day, yeah, sure. But when you're there, and you know, he was head of NASDAQ, it's a difficult thing. I mean, look at Theranos, right? Classic. Look at FTX, right? Classic. You know, this kind of thing. You know, Theranos. You just think, well, hold on. They stole an existing Edison machine and put their sticker on it. And you know, the likes of Bill Clinton, Mr. Schultz. You know, it would be top, smart, wealthy billionaires. But you know, they kind of got sucked into it. So yeah, I mean, it's great that we can sort of talk about this now, but it just beggars belief. Look, I've just watched this thing called We Crashed. Have you seen it? It's just incredible. It's about WeWorks, and it's got Anne Hathaway, and it's brilliant. I've been watching some of that, and that just collapsed in COVID. But there was a lot of mavericky smoke and mirrors with the numbers. SoftBank was suckered in giving WeWork billions, and turned the blind eye because they saw this next. Everyone wants to discover the next Steve Jobs. Everyone wants to be that kind of, oh yeah, I'm the guy who met Zuckerberg. I'm the guy who, the next Nvidia with AI. I'm the bank who funded and bankrolled. Do you know what I mean? So there's a bit of that as well. So it's ego, and in these kind of tech startup type meetings, you can slice and dice, and it's all about projections anyway. So you're kind of, in many ways, I mean, you look at some of the bank crisis in on that side, in the last few years, it's like, they drink this Kool-Aid, don't they? Everyone in San Francisco has got this kind of like, yeah, everything's great, it's tech, and then you don't need much to launch a $1 billion IPO that's overvalued 5 to 1,
I can't remember what I read, but where I read it, but I read something recently which was basically the better educated, the smarter you are, the more likely you are to be gullible, I believe.
Yeah, I get it. I definitely good old gut instinct and brass tacks and risk management. Yeah, I mean that is so much more important than a fancy word or an idea of a projected P&L.
But the attraction of piles of money is very tempting. I mean, even when I go to my spam folder to delete them, I look down, and of course I wouldn't ever reply to anyone, but I can feel the pull there. 200 million from somebody for nothing. It's just there. But how could the industry better protect itself from the kind of, not the foolish ones like I may be, but from the ones who spot a chance and who are corrupt?
Go to the FCA. They've got a list of people they don't trust. That's a good start. Call them up, have a chat with them. Usually, at the very least, tell a friend, right? Tell a friend, maybe not who's in finance, but just to tell that there's a whole industry, a subculture of scams that play on this. A lot of it stems from Greek tragedy. It plays on your emotions, and it assumes that you're not happy. It assumes that you're in a dead-end job. It assumes that you're trying and failing again and again, knocking your head on the brick wall. And if you see the setups, it's all story and theatre. You see some of these adverts, they play on these emotions, and then comes the solution. For a minimum amount of risk, you get the maximum amount of reward. This is all old stuff. It's all old storytelling. So they really play on your emotions. So look, at the very least, tell a friend, ask your friend. Don't get on the call. Don't click on any links that the email has sent you if it gets through your junk folder into your inbox. Call the FCA, forward it onto the FCA. If they're legit, the FCA will probably respond, or if not, call them, and at least you've checked, right? I would say if they're offering you something that is quite fantastical, it's a scam. Anything from 0 or no risk to £50,000 a week upwards, or even less than that. That just doesn't happen. And the other thing is, yeah, do all of that. And if there's any feeling in yourself of, if you're seeing any images of Lamborghinis, centre court at Wimbledon, spas, skiing in St Moritz, you know, attractive people with bright teeth, this kind of stuff, maybe that's an alarm bell.
Love that, Patrick. But what about the industry itself? Because it's not in the industry's benefit, surely, to have this reputation for corruption and scamming. Is there anything the industry could do differently to make sure that these kind of individuals aren't exploiting these opportunities?
Well, there is, but you know, you're up against human emotion. So if you want to believe it, you will. There are on many brokers, and by law, under FCA law regulation, you have to put extensive warnings saying that, you know, up to 87% of retail traders lose money, and you will see that plastered everywhere. All I can say is, of course, there should be more done. I mean, you can't do enough, but you really are going against the tide of people just wanting to believe it. You know, I don't believe in, so personally, I don't believe in horoscopes. But if I try and speak to someone, I don't believe in crypto, that it's the oracle, right? That's another thing. If I try and have a healthy conversation with someone who's very zealous about this, they get really upset. They think I think they're stupid, and I don't. I'm just having a healthy conversation to find the truth. So, you know, if somebody, you know, is on this multi-level marketing, or a kind of, or even a separate thing, and even a Ponzi scheme, and they're saying, well, I put in this amount every month and I get that back. If you try and kind of say, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? It's very difficult. But yeah, look, social media, people like myself, I'll be blasting it on my social media channels. You know, there is always more we can do as an industry. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how effective that will be.
Thank you. So Patrick, when I first met you, it called to mind when I was two things. When I was a child, there was a girl at school whose dad was a stockbroker, and sometimes they lived in a massive house, and then her dad would be declared bankrupt and they'd be moving in with relatives somewhere, and then they'd be buying another big house somewhere, and so there seemed to be this up and down in their family fortunes. And I also remember watching a documentary about these stockbrokers who couldn't sleep because they were so petrified of losing money that their nervous systems were on edge. So they were awake most of the night. They all had ulcers and were retiring by the age of 30. Now, that might not reflect the reality of the situation, but I suppose what I am struck by is there must be some kind of sense of up and down with your nervous system. You know, the highs and lows. You know, if you lose a load of money, that can't be good, but also equally the excitement when you win, win with the system. So how do you manage your own nervous system?
Yeah, just training, and like any skill, I walk away, I go to the woods, I go for a swim. I have mechanisms that I've learned over the years, that have been taught over the years, knowing not to revenge trade, to you know, just do normal things, not get involved, not look at. I have my day is structured that I don't trade on my phone. I generally have my phone switched off or on silent, so it's on kind of, you know, away from me when I'm in my job. And you know, I generally get up really early, do my things in the morning, do my macro show for my clients, put on my bids and offers for my trades, go about my day, come back about 4, close it all up. Then I have a nice early evening. And I've been doing it like that for quite a while. And I'm just easier to, it's easier to switch off, because I know I've been up and down in my success. So I just know it's just a game, it's a market, it's a job, it's not my life. Even though I am really interested in the subject. But yeah, I mean, some people have a trickier time than other people. I think back today, brokers have a different kind of role. All they do is match buyers and sellers, so there's not so much anxiety involved. If you are a trader and you're trading somebody else's money, you might lose your job. But if you're trading your own money, it can be all consuming. But yeah, I mean, I have a process, a risk parameter process, and I also have, I take time out to, shall we say, pray and do spiritual stuff. Quite clumsy at doing that, but it works. Just to get clear and do. I like the outdoors, and that really helps with me as well for the stress. I go to the gym as well.
Do you think some people are temperamentally unsuited to the kind of work you're talking about, Patrick?
Yes, definitely. I think quick winners, people that aren't interested in the subject, people that think it's easy, people with no respect for risk, people who are unhinged, people who go for the fast cars. They're not going to last. The people who want to do it because they love the subject, people who are resilient, but resilience is learnt really. Those are the ones that will last, I think. It does take time. I would say give yourself at least a year. It took me a year before I made some good money. And a year of being beaten up every day by the markets. If you can last that, you can do anything. So it just takes that long. Markets are like the weather. They're like life, and sometimes you get a nice day like today. Last weekend it was just chucking it down in Amsterdam. So you just don't know. You'll get a freak gust of wind, and it can just flip you over. So steadying the ship and having that anchor when you need to drop it is important. So yeah.
Thank you. And you've given us a great description of how you manage your own life. But would you have any tips for any of our listeners about how they can cope with high levels of risk in their lives?
Yeah, just write it out. I've got, see all that, it's paper. And I've got all these pens on my desk. And I've got loads of, I think I need shares in Stabilo, Boss. Am I allowed to say that on the TV? But highlighters. And I love it. And I just write out my to-do list. I write out the what's happening, and I look at the options, and I just take a deep breath, and I just go, it's going to be fine. I see what's planned out. A lot of it is in my head anyway. But that's, I talked to a friend, and it's just a very calming thing. And when I look at my calendar, I just focus on today. I don't look at, if I looked at my next month's schedule, I'd be like, oh, like today I've had like 7 or 8 appointments, but like today, I just look at what's needed right now, then separate that, clear it, do it, what's next, separate that, clear it, do it, what's next. That's the kind of thing. Use those little compartments, and I love ticking my list off. It doesn't mean I have to do everything. I'm not married to my list, but I love ticking things off. And at the end of the day, I unless it's something different, I tend not to work after 6. Definitely, I'm winding down by 4:30.
That's brilliant. And I've noticed you've said several times throughout this conversation, Patrick, talk to somebody, talk to a friend, and that seems to be very important. But I'm interested in this writing that you do? Do you just use a sheet of paper, or have you got a chart, or you got
Yeah,
a chart?
I'll show you. But there's my things to do list,
Right.
right? That's today. Um, and I do. This is my Adamus daily, so that's my market view every day. That's today, right? And I just, I have that and I write it out. I go, oh yeah, that's my day. That's it. That's what's happening. And it's just a really nice kind of. I like to walk around with it. I'll put the kettle on. I have a little look. Yeah, it's nice. And it kind of it's tangible. You can. It's like it's old fashioned, I guess, but I like it. It's rather than like Excel docs, and I mean I have my charts and I have loads of spreadsheets and stuff, but there's nothing really. When I've got a really bad memory, and when I write stuff down, I remember it. There's something about that. It's really special, actually, and it's yeah. I just sort of it just connects with me, and I know I've got it. In when the I can't believe how long it was, 24 years ago. When the millennium happened, there was all this scaremongering about everything is going to go offline and all this stuff. So I was like, right, well that's okay. I'm going to be fine because I write it down anyway. In this cupboard, there are years of these. Like, don't. I was going to say keep it secret, but it's a bit late now. So when I look back at all the years, I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder what happened a couple of years ago when that happened. I can actually look and see how I was writing and what emotion I had and all the different assets, and it's really good rather than looking on a computer. Just the way I do it. So yeah, I just love writing. Yeah, it's quite therapeutic as well.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much, Patrick. That was really illuminating.
Oh, thanks.
Good to catch up with you again, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you so much. Amazing. Nice to see you.